Science time with Dr. Fahy. Hello, Dr. Fahy. Today's question comes in from me, and I would like you to explain nuclear power.
All right, so nuclear power is when we generate power by splitting an atom's nucleus. Um, so everything that we deal with in everyday life, the atoms that are interacting. So when I touch things or pick something up or cook something or any sort of reaction, that's all happening when you've got an atom. You've got electrons going around the outside, and that's moving the electrons around or moving them from one atom to another, or the interactions between those when they bump into each other. So in everyday life, there's not much that happens in the nucleus, which is the center of the atom. But it turns out that in early stars, the center of the star, protons and neutrons fuse together, and they'll make larger and larger nucleus. And sort of in the early universe or in supernova, really large nucleus were formed, which makes up the stuff we're made out of. And it takes a ton of energy to make these larger nuclei. So any atom that's heavier than iron actually has energy stored into it to make the large nucleus. So if you can then split that apart, you can get that energy back and release that energy. So nuclear power, for the most part, uses either uranium or plutonium. Uh, and that's a very large nucleus, around 200 um, protons and neutrons in there. And if you can somehow split that nucleus apart, you can get the energy that's stored in it. And so the way to do that is if a neutron will hit it just right with the right amount of energy, you can actually split the nucleus apart. And generally, that's called fission, and it fissions into multiple smaller pieces. But those will release more neutrons, and those will hit other nuclei and cause those to split apart. And then that process will happen faster and faster and faster if there's enough uranium next to each other, so that you get a chain reaction and a large amount of uranium all splits up and gives a bunch of energy off. Now, the way we actually generate power is kind of boring, the same way we generate power from anything. You get a bunch of heat that comes from splitting these things apart. That the energy is that from this fission is released as heat, and so you heat up water, you turn it into steam, and you drive a turbine. The same way you do with steam power of any kind. So whether you're using coal or natural gas or the waterfall to power your turbine, and that gives us nuclear power.
Or like when you're heating water to make spaghetti.
Yes, you could boil water to make spaghetti, as long as you don't care about neutrons in your spaghetti.